much indeed, Amos. Very nice of you. Very nice to be here. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for coming into a darkened room in these hot and sweaty times. Much appreciated. Very nice of you. It is hot. It's not. I don't like the hot weather. I've got to the age where I will complain about anything. And hot weather is amongst those things. It's very difficult for men of a certain age. As we grow older, it's very tricky. Because the fewer clothes we wear, the worse we look. And the fewer clothes the ladies wear, the better they look. And that is a devilish combination when you put them side by side, isn't it? My dad called me up yesterday. He said, David, it is 77 degrees. Now, granted, there aren't many father-son relationships that function like that, where a man calls his son to tell him the angle of his erection, but it works for us. So who am I to shilly-shally? It also goes some way to explaining quite why the older generation still cling to Fahrenheit in the way they do. It's just so much more flattering under those circumstances, bless them. Oh, I love my folks. They're hilarious, my folks. My mum, my dad. They're separated. They're doing their own thing. I don't see them as often as I'd like to. I try to see them as much as I can. The last time I saw my mum properly at all, I wasn't even trying to see her. She surprised me. I was doing a book reading in a bookshop in Birmingham. She doesn't live in Birmingham. She didn't tell me she was coming. She bought a bloody ticket. She is my mother. I would have got my mother in for free, obviously, we know that much, but she wanted to surprise me, and the first I knew she was there was when I walked on. It was a shop floor, Birmingham. There she was on the third row on the far left with the most mischievous shit-eating grin you could possibly imagine. On a woman of that year's age. You really just absolutely loving it, she was. And I understand that. If you're a parent, you will understand this. The biggest practical joke you can ever play on your children is turning up somewhere they're not expecting to see you. That is as big as it gets in parent land. I understand that. So I saw she was there. Obviously, I couldn't miss her. It's my mum. I mentioned it. She loved the attention. I think the rest of the audience enjoyed the fact that something a little bit kooky was going on. And then I did the book reading. Now, when I do a book reading, I read from the book, obviously. That's what it says on the tin. But then I say, any questions? So I did a little bit from the book, and I said, any questions? And one hand goes, oh, yeah, it's my mum. I say, yes, what is it? She said, what are you going to get me for Christmas? She was on fire. Loving every bit of it, she was. But then when I'd done all my duties in the shop that day, I had to go home to London. That's where I live. I was one train left from Birmingham to London. So I had 10 minutes to walk from the bookshop to the train station and get on a train. And my mum walked with me to the train station. And even though we'd spent the whole evening together, in real terms, mother-son time, one-on-one, we had 10 minutes while we walked from a bookshop to a train station. That was all. And that's a real shame, isn't it? That she made that lovely effort to come and see me, and we actually only got to spend 10 minutes together. And we had that little walk and a chat, and I got to the train station, peck on the cheek, we got on our separate trains, and we went our separate ways. I thought, it's really lovely of her. I'll send her a quick message to say thank you, because I wanted to know how much that's appreciated. Got my phone out. Thanks for coming, Mum. It was lovely to see you, but you are very naughty for not telling me you were coming. And she sent one straight back saying, I know, but naughty can be nice sometimes, can't it? And I sent one straight back to her saying, yes, it can. At which point I realised I was flirting with my mum. 90-minute train journey from Birmingham to London before I could shower that shame from me. It haunted us for weeks. We never spoke about it. We spoke on the phone, but that was a dark cloud that never got mentioned, I tell you. At least she uses the phone. My dad is not quite so mobile phone friendly. He never has been and he never will be. I've got to get used to that fact. I used to live in Manchester many years ago. I was living in Manchester at the time that the IRA planted a bomb in city centre Manchester. I didn't find out about that from the usual news channels. I found out about it from my mum. Luckily for me, I wasn't in the city that day. I was on tour. I was in the southwest somewhere driving along in my car, and I saw my phone go. I saw it was my mum. I'm a good lad. I pulled over and I safely took that phone call. First words from my mum, are you okay? No, I'm fine, what's the problem? There's been a bomb in Manchester. She's all panicky, as you would be. I reassured my mum that I was hundreds of miles away from the incident and she need not worry. She was fine. That phone call ended. Now, I know it's my duty as a good boy to tell my dad that I'm okay. They're separated. Who's going to tell him that his lad's all right? That's my job, isn't it? But that wasn't at the front of my mind. The first thing on my mind was, what about the people I love in Manchester? It was my home. I'd lived there for 10 years. There were people I cared about. I got my phone out. I spent 40 or 50 minutes ringing round all these friends, checking they were all okay. They were all okay. That made me feel like I dealt with the issue. I got back in my car and I carried on my way. I was away from home on that trip for 7 days. I got home 7 days later. There was one little red light flashing on my old-fashioned answer machine. One message in 7 days from my father. I don't have to make up a word of this. My father's message went as follows. Hello, David. It's your father. Just calling to see if you're okay. There's been a bomb in Manchester. I won't call you mobile, it's quite expensive. 50p to find out if your son is alive! 50 fucking... A mother couldn't think like that, could they? It's not possible for a woman to... 50p! And he ended the message. He genuinely ended the message. With the words... I'll assume no news is good news. No news is good news when there's no fucking news. You can't take bad news, add no news to it, and get good news out the other side, can you? It doesn't work like that. I love that man to pieces, but he's stupid. And I don't want to give him a hard time. I think my folks have done a good job. I'm proud of my parents. I doff my cap in their direction. I've got 3 brothers, including a twin brother, and the 4 of us, we're all out in the world living nice, happy, contented lives. Not everyone is delivered into the world as an adult, ready to function in society, are they? And I think you've got to respect your parents if they've done that much for you. That's literally all they're asked to do as parents. And not everyone gets that. One of my friends, I'm sorry, he has been so screwed up by his parents. He really has. And the truth is, it's not so much something that they did, it's more something that they didn't do, if you know what I mean. What happened to this friend of mine, who, for reasons that are about to be obvious, will remain nameless, is his parents didn't give him a name. And that has really screwed him up, it really has. I still get told off by my folks. That's not right, is it? I'm 39 and my dad tells me off. That doesn't feel right at all. That's got to stop within the year, I tell you. I'll give you an example of how I mean. I've been doing lots of interviews to promote the show, right, and DVD, and so obviously you've got to tell people it's out there, so I hope they'll buy it. And so what happens, you might see one interview in your local paper, but I will sit by a phone in one afternoon, I'll do 20 of those interviews at 10-minute intervals, back-to-back, with different people, all asking the same question. Now, I'm not complaining about that for one moment. These people are helping me to hawk my wares, and I'm grateful. But I think you're not human if, when you've done 15 of those, you're not bored out of your tiny mind. And what I do to brighten it up for myself is I just start making shit up. Just to keep it alive. It turns every one into a little game, you know, just seeing if I can do it. So I was talking to one of these guys. I had no idea what newspaper he writes for. He's just chatting away, and he says to me, "So, Dave, have you got any hobbies?" And I thought, right. I don't know what the next word that's going to come out of my mouth is, but let's see what happens. I said, yes! My hobby is trying to trick my friends into accidentally declaring themselves to be bi-curious. I couldn't hear those words out of another man's mouth and not think, what? He didn't think, what? He just wrote it down in his bloody notepad. And then he printed it in his newspaper, which turned out to be my father's local newspaper. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from my dad, landline, obviously, saying, "David, what does bi-curious mean?" I'd forgotten saying it. It was a throwaway comment 2 weeks earlier, playing a game in my own head. I don't know why my dad wants to know. I think he just wants to know, and he thinks I'm the man to bloody tell him. I can't have that conversation with I'm trying to work out why he wants to know. I work out it's because of something I've said in the paper. I suddenly feel guilty. It's my job to explain him, but I can't. I'm not equipped to have that conversation with my dad. I did the only thing I could. I made it up. I'm probably not the first person to make this up, but I am certainly the first person to convince Derek Gorman that it's true. I said, well, Dad, bi-curious is what you say when you're really interested in buying something. I thought I'd got away with that. I hadn't. 2 weeks later, I went to visit my old man. The day I went to visit him is the day that he decided it was time he changed his car. Yes. Letting gentlemen, you have seen nothing until you have seen a second-hand car salesman watching Derek Gorman walk round a Toyota 3 times, kick its tyres once, and then tell the man he's very bi-curious. You've never seen a second-hand car salesman looking less interested in selling a car in your life. It's a remarkable thing. Then you start telling that story on tour, you go to Oxford where your dad lives, he comes to see the show, he finds out what bi-curious means, and he fucking tells me off, like I say. That's how that happens. I've noticed with all these interviews that there's been a culture shift in this country. I've been in this game long enough to have seen this happen. Years ago, this would never... I haven't been doing interviews with lad mags. I haven't been doing interviews with Loaded and Nuts and Zoo. I've been doing interviews with respectable broadsheet newspapers. And they, in the last year or so, have started to ask lad mag-style questions. That seems a very peculiar twist of events to me. I don't know how they all do it as if it's normal. In the last fortnight, I have been asked on a dozen occasions, what was your first sexual experience? I think that's an intrusive question. I wouldn't expect anyone in this room to want to share it with the rest of us, not unless it was actually happening here tonight. That would be weird, wouldn't it? But they ask as if it's a normal thing. I give them what I believe is an honest answer, but also one that maintains dignity and respect. There's no knee trembler and alley in my background. What I believe, and I think this is true, I believe that your first ever sexual experience was something that you weren't aware was a sexual experience when it was happening, because you were an innocent child. Nothing untoward about it. It's just that later on, when you're an adult with your newly sexualised brain, you can look back on those events and think, actually, there was some learning going on there. There was some sexual side to that. I'll tell you what I'm talking about, right? So I was at junior school at the time, prepubescent, no sexual thoughts in this head whatsoever, and I had a young female friend called Julie, and I have no idea why I've just done that with my hand. That's implying a height differential between me and Julie that frankly makes this story a bit more sinister than it is. The point is, we're both about that height. That's the important thing. We're both little kids. If anything, she was a couple of inches taller than me, as girls often are at that age. That's not the important thing. The point is, we're both entirely innocent. Now, we were very good friends, and one time during our lunch hour, we nipped off behind some trees, and we spent the lunch hour showing each other our scars. Yeah? Now, if that was 2 boys, you would think nothing untoward about that. Boys climb trees, they get cuts and grazes, they show each other the spoils of war and the wounds of war. That's how boys behave, isn't it? But it happened to be a boy and a girl. It was exactly the same thing. However, with hindsight, looking back on that event, I think, yeah, hang on, that's 2 kids who know that their bodies are different. What that was a very innocent excuse for exploring those differences between us, for having a little look at what the other person's body was like. Nothing wrong with that, just curious kids. I remember it very clearly. She had fallen off her bicycle quite recently, and she still had a very angry red raw scar across her right knee, still there. I think that's why she started the conversation in the first place. And she'd had her appendix out at a very unusually young age. She had a little faint, a little delicate, little tiny, like a little butterfly, quite pretty, little appendectomy scar just on her tummy, around there. And I'm circumcised, so that really moved things on a pace at that point. I'm not sure if I should tell you this, but it's too late now because I've said that. It's normally wise. You've got to let things percolate through your brain before you share them with an audience, especially when we're filming, but I'm going to have to tell you this. I'm talking about interviews. This happened about 40 minutes ago before the show started. I was doing an interview with one of the local papers from around here in the dressing room, and you know when you're talking to someone and you're not sure that they're really listening? They're sort of listening. They're doing just enough to maintain politeness, but they're not really engaging in anything that you're saying. It was like that. I think she'd been sent down with a notepad with somebody else's 20 questions on, and she was doing them a favour, so she was sort of paying lip service to it, but not really there. And I was chatting to her, and I thought, I'm going to test her. I'm going to see how much she's really listening. She said to me, "So, Dave, what can the people at the Bloomsbury Theatre expect this evening?" And I said to her, "Well, tonight, I'm going to turn the good people of the Bloomsbury Theatre into a gang of bloodthirsty killers. But don't worry, I will stop them before they take a life. And when that's over, I'll say thanks a lot, good night, and I'll leave." And I swear on my life, her very next question was, "Sorry, is bloodthirsty 1 word or 2? Now you tell me whether that person's engaged in the conversation or not. I suspect not really, don't you think? I'll give her credit for this, though. She didn't ask me this question. They all ask the same questions. You get used to hearing the same things. They look you up on Wikipedia, they find 5 facts, and that's where all the questions come from. She didn't ask me this. They normally do. They're obsessed with the idea that I dropped out of university. They think that means I must be a bit thick, or maybe there's a scandal, maybe I got kicked out. I don't know what they think, but they always seem to ask, why did you drop out of university? I'll share it with you, maybe it'll get it out of the way and they'll stop asking. Basically, I was studying mathematics in Manchester. Now, that's reason enough for some people, but that is not the reason. I'll give you a bit of detail. In particular, we were studying these things called perfect numbers, OK, and I'll explain that very briefly. A perfect number is a number that is equal to the sum of its own divisors. OK, and I think I might have lost 2 or 3 of you there. I'll give you a bit more information. I'll give you an example. 6 is a perfect number. The divisors of a number are the whole numbers that divide into it neatly without leaving any fractions. I think most of us could work out that 4 and 5 would divide into 6 leaving fractions, so they're not the divisors. 1, 2 and 3 are. If you add 1, 2 and 3 up, you get 6. That makes it a perfect number because it is equal to the sum of its own divisors. Now, I've made it sound a bit too simple. I'll give you another example. 28, 1, 2, 4, 7 and 14 add up to 28. Both of those two discovered by Pythagoras. Roman numerals, no computers. He's doing a bloody good job. He's found 6. He's found 28. He thinks these things are lovely. I like these. They're perfect. I'll have a look for more of them. He spends the whole of the rest of his life looking for a third perfect number, and he never bloody finds one. He dies only having found 6 and 28. But other mathematicians, they think, bloody hell, if Pythagoras was looking for them, I bet they're out there, they'll have a look as well. They all stop looking. The search goes on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. All the way into the Middle Ages, they've still only found 6 and 28. Eventually they think, fuck it, maybe it is just 6 and 28. They try to apply some deep religious significance to that because God took 6 days to make the Earth and the Earth takes 28 days to turn, but that turns out to be a load of rubbish because the third perfect number is 496 and that proves cock all. Now, the fourth perfect number is 8,128 and the fifth perfect number is 33,550,336. That's how rare they are. You've got to count all the way past 33.5 million before you've found 5 of the buggers. They're very rare, they're very lovely, they are perfect. Now, as well as your perfect numbers, we were studying these things called friendly numbers, and I'll just explain that very briefly. Basically, friendly numbers, they're a bit like your perfect numbers, except they hang around in pairs, yeah? It's like an Ant and Dec of the number world. Wherever they go, there's another one always hanging out with him. What it is, the divisors of the first one, they're equal to the second one, and the divisors of the second one, they're equal to the first one. So, for example, 220 and 284 are friendly numbers because the divisors of 284, that's 1, 2, 4, 71, 142, are equal to 220, and the divisors of 220, that's 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 11, 20, 22, 44, 55 and 110 are equal to 284. You don't need me to tell you that. Now, as well as your perfect numbers and your friendly numbers, we're studying these things called sociable numbers, right? I'll just explain them very briefly. What it is, they're like your friendly numbers, except they're even bloody friendlier, yeah? It's like a little stag do in a minibus going off to Europe for the weekend. There's loads of them. They hang around in gangs. What it is, the first one's divisors are equal to the second one, that one's divisor equal to the third one, that one's divisor equal to the fourth one, and so on, all the way through your chain until you get to the last number. That one's divisors are equal to the very first number. Now, obviously, you can get a loop of 3, 4, 5 numbers long, but the longest loop anyone's found so far is a 28-number loop starting at 14,316, and obviously you could work out the other numbers from there. So, there we are. We're studying this stuff, your perfect numbers, your friendly numbers, your sociable numbers. At the end of one of our lectures, the lecturer is trying to be a bit savvy with his students, you know the sort. He picks up his briefcase to leave. As he gets to the door, he turns to us all and says, so, maybe some of you will try being a little bit sociable yourselves this evening. Off he goes. I'm a first year, I'm naive. I unwisely clutch hold of the conversational thread the lecturer has left dangling. I turn to my fellow students and say, oh, does anyone fancy going down the pub for a pint tonight? And they all went, nah, fuck off. And that's why I dropped out. It's a shame, really. I find the whole subject fascinating, but what can you do? I've been to visit my family recently, my little nephews and nieces and my brothers and things, because I go off on tour and you don't see them for a while, you know, it's nice to catch up with them. Little Ryan, he's the youngest of the bunch, and he is so cute. He is 8. He doesn't know what his Uncle Dave does for a living because he's 8. I do swear occasionally, it's not what the evening's about. I try to rein it in, but you can imagine you wouldn't bring an 8-year-old into a room like this for a night like this, would you? So little Ryan, he hasn't got a clue what I do for a living, but he's very clever. He overhears things and he fills in the blanks for himself. I was having a chat to my brother, his father, about the fact I was coming down here to have a little chat with you this evening, and little Ryan, cute as anything, he overheard, he came up to me after we'd finished talking and went, "Uncle David, I've written a joke for you that you can use." How sweet is that? You've got to indulge the little fella, haven't you? I said, "Go on then, Ryan, you tell me your little joke." He said, "You could tell the ladies and gentlemen that you have been asked to present a new telly show what has couples in it, like men and ladies who are married, and all the men have erectile dysfunction and all the women are frigid, and it's called Can't Fuck, Won't Fuck." I said, "Ryan, that is very naughty, Ryan. I am not impressed with the way you're talking, young man." He said, "You could have another one where the men will suffer from premature ejaculation. It's called Ready, Steady, Fuck." I said, "Ryan, I am not impressed with you at all." He said, "You got another one called The X Factor." I said, "Ryan, that isn't even a proper pun. What the hell do you think you're doing?" He said, "You have another one called Country File with John Crave." And I said, "That's what it's actually fucking called, Ryan!" "I am going to have a word with your father." And I did. I had a word with his father, who is my brother, like I say. Or that, actually, I think, especially on a night like tonight, I should be honest, really, trying to be precise with my language. I say my brother. This is actually my twin brother I'm talking about. Ryan's dad, he's my twin brother. But I say that. If I'm going to be precise with you, I should be really precise. He's my twin. He's actually my Siamese twin brother, or my conjoined twin, to use the politically correct jargon of the day. And I say that and instantly feel 500 pairs of eyes burning into me. Thinking, really? You had a little lean and a look there, I saw that. See if you could see a little fella hanging off the back, see if there was a withered form there. He was never there. You'd never have seen him there anyway, and we've been separated, so there's nothing to see. Very, very lucky, actually, as Siamese twins go. When we were born, we were joined at the hair. Very simple operation, that one. You're done. So, just out of interest, a show of hands is all I require here, people. I'd like you to just be able to sit back, relax and enjoy yourselves. You don't need to be vocal for me. Just a show of hands is all I require. Just on a show of hands, who here at the Bloomsbury Theatre has got any essential oils at home? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. OK, I'll just make a quick note of that. It's about 500 people. It's July the 12th, the Bloomsbury, 6 out of 500, which... Oh, I'm shit with numbers. It's 1.2%, isn't it? Jolly good. I don't know about you, but I can't help thinking maybe they're not quite as essential as they make out. I've been doing some looking into it on my travels. I think I'm onto something there. I also know that you weren't being entirely honest with me there, were you, Bloomsbury Theatre? I'm not having a go at you for that. That's human nature, that is. I'm on stage, I'm lit up, I'm asking a question like that. You're thinking he obviously needs someone to approve this before he can carry on with his routine. Why would it have to be me? He doesn't know if I've got any essential oils at home. You have. You've got patchouli, you've got tea tree, most of you, about 60% of you at least have got that. And you're doing a little calculation in your own head though, aren't you? You're thinking, well, I have got some tea tree, but what's in it for me and putting my hand up? I'm pretty sure the majority of people aren't going to put their hand up. If I put my hand up, I'm volunteering for a tour of duty in the show. Why would I volunteer for a tour of duty in the show when he doesn't know who's lying and who isn't? I'll just keep my hand down and stay in the silent majority where I feel comfortable in the dark in a crowd. I don't want that. Why would I do that? I am a pack animal. I feel safe in the pack because that is how we are programmed to behave, isn't it? Put your hands up if you do things like that. Sometimes there is one. The truth is, when I'm asking a question like that, you can be entirely honest. I'm not doing it to try and pick out individuals. I've no interest in that. I don't like doing that when I'm in the audience. I don't like it to happen, so I don't do it when I'm on a stage either. I'm asking because I'm genuinely interested in the sweep of the room, in what the public at large think or feel about a subject. It's a genuine question for those purposes. It's not to find individuals. And I'm saying this now with some emphasis because I'm about to ask a question and I really do need an honest response from all of you. I think I've made a mistake. And I need to know how out of step I am with public opinion before I realise, you know what, basically, be honest with me. By show of hands, ladies and gentlemen, if you were going to agree to the terms of a legally binding contract, by show of hands, who here thinks you should read that contract before agreeing to its legally binding terms? By show of hands, who here thinks you should read a legally... Shit. That was pretty much everyone as far as I could tell. Do me a favour, could you keep your hands up if you think you should read the legally binding contract? Just keep your hands up if you think you should. And now, keep those hands up if you've ever downloaded any software to any computer ever, you bunch of lying, hypocritical, good-for-nothing, two-bit, shallow bastards who every single man jack of you knows has scrolled through a 5,000-word legally binding contract only to click the button going, "Give me the game!" You are a bunch of liars and hypocrites, ladies and gentlemen, and it is worth establishing early on in this adventure who is being more honest in this. I think we've just worked out it's me. So unlike a lot of acts these days, I haven't got a catchphrase. What haven't I got? Some of this is more fun for me than it is for you, though. I am 100% aware of that. You don't need to worry about what's going on up here. It's all right. It's normally at this stage of the evening that I like to talk about the Great British Postal Service. No pun intended. And non-delivered, either. And that is the perfect marriage of intention and delivery right there, isn't it? You know you're in the hands of a pro when no pun was intended and none arrived just like that. You can just sit back and let things happen to you under those circumstances, can't you? There's nothing to worry about. I have actually got a little something to say about the Postal Service. I've got a little treat for you. In fact, I'm confident. We're halfway through the year. I am confident I'm about to give you the best present you're going to get all year. That's quite a promise, that, isn't it? What you need for this is a postcard, a biro and a stamp. What I need for this are my glasses. Now, my costing of 50p is based on the idea that you have free access to a biro. My 50p basically buys you a postcard and a stamp. If you're sitting there thinking, well, actually, Dave, I don't have free access to a biro, Argos. Simple as. Here you go, then. What you do, this is a free gift for you. 50p, the most fun you can possibly buy for 50p. You get your postcard, you get your biro, and you write the following message on your postcard. Dear Postman, I know I've sent this to my home address, but it's you I wanted to write to. I know you read the postcards, though. You're only human after all. I hope this doesn't seem too forward, but I don't feel able to approach you in real life. Would you like to meet for a drink sometime? It doesn't have to be a date, we could just see how it goes. If you're interested, just deliver this card to mine. I'll know what it means. Put that message on your postcard, ladies and gentlemen. Get a stamp, put that on your postcard, and then send it to your next-door neighbour. I guarantee you, the most fun it is possible to have for 50p right there and then. And you don't know how proud I am knowing that at least 60% of you are going to do that this weekend. You don't know. It gets me right there. It really does. I have to be honest with you, I should be honest with you and say I haven't actually sent that postcard to my own next-door neighbour. I apologise if that makes me dishonest. There is a reason, though. My next-door neighbour, I live on an end terrace, I have one neighbour. He's a lovely guy, his name's Brian, he's a good friend of mine. I do little odd jobs for him, I help him out about the house. The reason I haven't sent him that postcard is that Brian is blind, and when he gets a postcard, he brings it round to my house for me to read it to him. And that would change everything, wouldn't it? That would be wrong in all sorts of ways. You can understand why I didn't do that. Context is all important, isn't it? In any kind of humour, you've got to have the right context for a joke to work. And you can say, well, I'll give you an example. This is how much context can change a joke, anyway. See this? See that finger there? Yeah? There are circumstances in which doing this can be hilarious. Now, we all know that it wasn't hilarious just then. But that is because I was no longer wearing my glasses. changes everything. One little tiny detail missing, the whole thing falls apart. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. He is real, incidentally, Brian. People think I might have made him up. He's a lovely fellow and he is real. And I feel sorry for him, obviously, because I see how much he gets excluded by society. And so my method in handling Brian is I just try to include him in everything that we do. I just try to make him feel as included as possible. But it's so difficult. I mean, I live in East London. This would never have happened when I was a kid. I have seen kids, young kids, like 10, 11 years of age, as young as that, on the streets of East London, shouting abuse at Brian and his dog because he's blind. That is disgusting, isn't it? I left the house about 2 weeks ago. There was graffiti on his front door about the fact that he is blind. It's just revolting. I mean, obviously, I went round straight away and went over it with papier-mâché so that he could appreciate it as well, because, like I say, he gets excluded from... I didn't actually do that. I could feel pockets of you changing your mind about me there. I want you to understand, I made that bit up. I was just being silly. I do mess with him sometimes, but that's because he's my mate. That's normal, isn't it? You have a little dig and a little josh with your mates, don't you? That's how blokes get on with each other. It would be wrong to exclude him from that side of male friendship. I include him in all that. And sometimes I think he's bloody asking for it. He tells me things. He knows what I'm like. Why would he tell me something if he didn't want me to have a play with it, you know? Brian himself told me this. Apparently, if you're sending a cheque in the post to a blind person, what you're meant to do is put a bit of kitchen paper in the envelope with the cheque. That kitchen paper, with its very familiar texture, that is code in the blind world for the other bit is a cheque. That's how the blind person knows to take the cheque-sized bit of paper down to the bank and pay it in. Why did he tell me that? He must have known what was going to happen, mustn't he? It was bloody obvious. I mean, it was so obvious, I waited 3 months. I put a little note in my diary and left it a while, get under the radar. I don't want to make it too obvious. And then I did it in style, ladies and gentlemen. I got a bit of paper about the same size as a cheque, right? I got a bit of kitchen paper. I got an envelope. I bundled them together and I posted them off to Brian, right? But before I put that blank piece of paper in the envelope, right, I got a marker pen and I wrote on it, "This is a stick-up." Give me all the money or the dog gets it. Now, come on! He's got to take some responsibility for that, hasn't he? He's got to bear some of the burden for that. That is as much his fault as it is mine, if you ask me. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a guilt-free laugh. You must feel no guilt about that whatsoever. I can tell you for a fact that Brian loved that joke. He loved that. He made 65 grand out of that joke. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? That's what I'm saying to you. Oh. Every time I put those glasses on, I'm reminded of the ageing process. I am getting older. It's happening to me. I'm going to be 40 next year. I'm not enjoying it. I'm falling apart. It's hard. I can't really see. Some of you are silhouettes to me. I've got one question. This will work it out. I've got one question that has 2 answers, and yet it divides you into 3 distinct age categories, ladies and gentlemen. Here is my question. By show of hands, who here can remember when Blue Peter used to collect milk bottle tops for the blind? OK, fair smattering, about more than half of you, I suspect. I'm guessing all the people who just put your hands up, you're all 30 years of age and older. There's younger people looking at me going, they used to do that? And there's even younger people going, what's a milk bottle top? If you're in that middle category and you're sitting there thinking, they used to do that? The answer is that yes, they did used to do that. But they stopped because it didn't actually work. It wasn't fooling them, I've checked. There is absolutely no way on this earth they ever thought that was real money. It just... I've asked Brian, it wasn't... Nothing to do with it. The trouble is, as I'm getting older, I thought as you grew older, you became someone who just knew how the world works. I thought you just knew your way around domestic crises. You'd know who to go to and who to call and what to... I don't know. I need instructions in life for everything. There aren't enough instructions. I panic if no one's giving me precise instructions on how to achieve a thing. I got a credit card in the post about a month ago. It arrived with a letter saying you must cut up your old credit card. But how many pieces. It doesn't tell me how many pieces to cut it up into, does it? You know instinctively, you cut that in two, that's not done the job, has it? Anyone could put those two pieces back together, work out the numbers and use them against you. You cut it in four, that's not much better, is it? What I always end up doing, I cut horizontally through the card, dissecting every number as I go, thinking, that'll bloody do it. And then I have a look at them and go, no, that's a 7, that's a 6, that's a 3, that's bloody easy. I'll go again. I go like 0.5 millimetre up the card and another 0.5 millimetre. I end up shaving the numbers away to dust on that card. I look at the chip and pin bit and think no one's ever explained how the chip and pin bit works. One little tiny slither of that chip might contain the whole DNA of my card for all I know. I cut through that on 76 different lines of attack. I cut the magnetic strip off in the microwave, 10 seconds, get that out, keep on cutting. I end up with like 389 bits of plastic and another pile of dust about the same size. I shuffle them together into one big pile, separate them into two new piles, put them into little sandwich bags, put one in that pocket, one in that pocket. I get on the underground, I go to Oxford Circus, drop one of them in a bin there. I get on the Channel, I go over to France. Obviously, these aren't the real locations, I'm not fucking nuts. The point is, nobody bloody tells you what you're meant to do, and I don't know how you're meant to find out. And it's got nothing to do with how old you are, is it? Some people are born old and wise. It's just the way. I've got a friend, Anders. Anders is 10 years younger than me. If you saw us out for a drink one night, you would assume that he was the older of the two. He doesn't bloody look it. He's 29, I'm 39. He just carries himself like a wise old owl. It is partly to do with the fact that he's Swedish. And every Swede you'll ever meet, they've got a better vocabulary in English than we have. It's quite embarrassing, so you give them extra credit for intelligence. And they have an accent that makes them sound like a wise old owl. It's just wonderful. The only thing he doesn't get occasionally is little turns of phrase, little idiomatic expressions, part of the vernacular I might use. He'll know every word, he'll just never have heard them put together in that order before. We're talking about a friend of ours recently, Barry. Barry is quite bandy-legged. Bandy Barry, we call him, obviously. And I was chatting about Bandy Barry. I said, well, that's the thing about Barry, isn't it? He couldn't stop a pig in a poke. Now, I'll guarantee there are people in this room who've never heard that phrase before. I'll guarantee there are other people in this room who've heard that phrase many times before. It's part of the vernacular, I think part of the northern vernacular of this country. But it's a real phrase, I didn't make it up. Imagine hearing that phrase in a second language where you know what every word means. Could not stop a pig in a poke. It means fuck all, doesn't it? We were in the pub, he'd had a couple, I'd had a couple. He thought I was taking the piss. He got all upset when he goes, yes, I can see what you're doing, David. This is a very funny trick. Yes, the next time I am talking about Bandy Barry, I will be saying to someone, oh, he could not stop a pig in a poke, and they will all be looking at me like I am some crazy foreign person, and you'll be somewhere else laughing on the other side of your hand because you have ridiculed me. If you do not mind me saying so, David, this is tantamount to racism. I do not like that. I was taking it, how dare you? I would never. It's a real friend. My dad used to say this all the time about one of our neighbours. He wouldn't believe me. We parted that night on quite bad terms. He came to me the next day. He'd done what many of you are going to do tomorrow. He'd Googled the phrase. He discovered that I wasn't making it up. He came to my house, rang the doorbell. I opened it. He hugged me. He said, I'm so sorry, David. I should never have doubted you. You have been a very good friend to me since I came to this country. This is a wonderful phrase. A poke is the alleyway. The pig would run through the man's legs. It makes so much sense to me now. I am writing this down. I'm going to keep a little journal of these little phrases. This is a wonderful language. It's beautiful and florid. And I hugged him back and I thought, oh, this is nice. We're friends again. And I also thought, oh, this is nice. I've now got the most gullible friend in the world. Because once you've convinced a Swede that could not stop a pig in a poke is a real phrase, which it is, you can convince them of absolutely anything you bloody like. I had so much fun. Honestly, I spoke to him yesterday. He is as happy as a horse in trousers. He really is. It's that simple. Oh, months it went on. After a while, I'll be honest with you, I did start to think I am doing what he said I was doing. I am mocking him because he is foreign. This is actually a little bit racist. I know there isn't a lot of anti-Swedish racism, but I don't want to be the figurehead for a movement, you know? I've got to put a stop to this at some point. How do you do it? It's like I can't confess because he'll feel distraught, it'll ruin him. What I thought I'd do is I'll make it a classy game and I'll go out on a big one and do it properly. I waited for an opportunity, eventually it came. We both cycle in London. I cycle in London because I love it. He cycles in London because he's Swedish and no one's told him he doesn't have to. He hates it. In Sweden, the cyclist is king. In London, they want to kill you. It makes him so mad. He came into the pub one night absolutely fuming. He was, it is the bus drivers. The bus drivers, professional drivers, no less. You think they would be trained to drive professionally on the street? I was in a bicycle lane. It is a different colour. It has a picture of a bicycle and it is expressly for my purposes. You would think the bus driver would see that I was there. He did not seem to see me. Did he tell me he was coming? No, he just started drifting towards the car. I had to get onto the pavement in order to not be killed by a bus. I'm telling you, David, I'm telling you, I have I said, no, Anders, you do not. Don't be saying road rage in the pub like that in front of people. They'll think you're stupid. We don't say road rage in this country. Not when you're on a bicycle. Road rage is people behind the wheel of a car. It's people with petrol or diesel throbbing through the engine. You can't have that on a pedal bike, for crying out loud. Now, on your push bike, we have a word for it. What you're experiencing there, we call bike fury. I said, thank you so much. I will write this down in that little book. This is a wonderful thing, thank you. And I left it at that. I did nothing. I just let the little innocent phrase nestle into his brain. I didn't play the long game. I didn't nurture it, nudge it along the way. I didn't water that plant at all. I just waited. 2 full months of nothing. And then suddenly it blossomed into the most beautiful of orchids. In the self-same pub. He came in the self-same mood. Furious, he was absolutely livid. He goes, it is pedestrians. You think you are not taught at school maybe to cross the road? You do not also look right and also left before you cross. You think your ears are enough to judge? You cannot hear me because I am on a bicycle. I do not make noise. You cannot hear anything. You step into the road. I have to swerve to avoid you. There was a taxi coming. I could have been killed. I'm telling you, David, I'm telling you. I am bike furious. Because... ladies and gentlemen, my hobby is trying to trick my friends into accidentally declaring themselves to be bi-curious. My other hobby is confusing the fuck out of latecomers at gigs. It's travel that wears me down now. That's what's happening as I get older. It's the travelling that hurts me. I travel a lot in the job. I love being in different places. I just don't like going there anymore. I used to love the going there. The first time I ever made a long-haul flight, I was so lucky. I was flying, I know how lucky this is, I was flying to Las Vegas because I was being employed to do some work when I got to Las Vegas. I was being paid to go there. Somebody else bought my ticket. And there were 4 friends of mine travelling with me. I had a trip to Vegas with 4 friends for free. And by sheer coincidence, the day of the flight was my birthday. What an amazing free birthday gift from the world. A free trip to Vegas with 4 of your friends. And because we were going around the world in that direction, my birthday lasted for 32 hours that year. We chased my birthday around the world. If we were still on that plane, it would still be my birthday now. It was amazing. And this was back in the day. It didn't matter what seat you were sitting in, no matter how little that anyone had paid for it, how little legroom you had. You pressed the button, they brought you a free drink. Imagine that for a young man on his birthday. A birthday that lasts forever with a never-ending supply of free alcohol. That was a beautiful thing. I wouldn't want it now, but I bloody wanted it then, I'll tell you. And I would not recommend going to Vegas drunk. I would recommend going and looking at it, but not staying, but I wouldn't recommend turning up drunk. Vegas freaks you out when you're sober. Vegas is the future. Floors move, doors open, lights shine and bells ring. Everything happens to you. You don't make it happen. It's very disconcerting for a drunk man. I got from the plane to the hotel, through the airport, through customs, through baggage check, the works, without having to walk. I don't know how it happened. I just know that I couldn't walk and I got there, so it must have happened. The last part of it wasn't technology. The last part of it was one of my friends hoiking me onto his shoulder and carrying me from the cab to the hotel bar because it was still my birthday more than 24 hours after my birthday had begun and more cocktails needed to be poured down my drunken throat. I've never been drunker in all my days. The worst, when I finally decided it was time to go to my room, that's when I discovered how drunk I was. I'm waiting for the lift to come. There's 3 or 4 lifts in a row. There's 7 or 8 passengers waiting to get in those lifts. Eventually, one of them comes, the doors open, we all step in. You do that thing when you get into a lift, you turn to face the front. And that turning motion was enough to unbalance me. I collapsed into the wall of the lift. Now, as I'm miming this here to you today, I'm sober, there's no actual wall, I'm in front of you lot. I still put my hands out to break my fall on the fictional wall. When it was a real wall and I wasn't drunk and I wasn't miming it, I didn't put my hands out. It was my head that broke my fall with the wall. Which was very confusing because there was carpet on that wall and that is a floor covering, we all know that. I thought I'd fallen all the way to the floor very quickly. Then I looked down and saw my feet were on carpet as well. I thought, this is the future, they're freaky, they've got floors everywhere, what the hell are they? And then I realised there were buttons You wouldn't put buttons on the floor, would you? That's a bloody wall, that is. Look at these lovely buttons. Lovely buttons. Lovely buttons. Lovely buttons. There are 7 or 8 other people in this lift. None of them can press any of these buttons because there is a drunk Englishman cherishing the buttons. Luckily for these people, there is another set of buttons on this side of the door over here, identical buttons. Unluckily for them, their access to these buttons is blocked by a clinically obese American chap. But he's sober, he's got the edge, he sees a situation, he judges it for himself, he realises he can help. He starts saying to people, which floor do you want? They start shouting out their floor numbers, he starts pressing all the buttons. I can't see any of that. I can see wall and buttons. But I can hear all of that. I hear a man say, which floor do you want? Somebody shouts out 17, and the number 17 light comes on. Somebody else shouts out 9, the number 9 light turns on. 12, the number 12 light. I thought we've got a voice-activated lift on our hands. I looked at my key fob, I went 15, and the number 15 light turned on. It was amazing. We got to the 15th floor, the doors open, someone gave me a shove in the small of the back. I collapsed onto the whole hotel corridor. I crawled on my hands and knees to my room. I got into my room, I didn't get undressed, I didn't brush my teeth, I didn't get clean. I just fell onto my bed and glued my head to the pillow with my spit. I woke up the next morning in the worst state I've ever been in, drunk and hungover at the same time. Feeling all disembodied and unprepared and dehydrated and jet-lagged and wearing yesterday's clothes and just I was disgusting. The only thing I knew with any certainty at that moment was that I needed fried food. Fried food, I knew, must be on the ground floor. So I went looking for the ground floor. I go to my room, I get to the lift. I remember this lift, I know how this works. A man comes and stands next to me while we wait for the lift. 6'5", crew cut, blazer, name badge, he works for the hotel. We're waiting, eventually the lift comes, the two of us step in, we turn to face the front. As we do that, I said, doors. Bloody loving that. Loving it so much that I then put my arm across his torso and said, please, let me do this. Ground floor. Ground floor. Nothing happening. I'm looking around, thinking it's a bit odd. And as I'm looking around, I'm trying to think of a rational explanation for why it might not be working. I can't find the real rational explanation. Not in my state. I'm looking around trying to think what's not working that was working last night. And as I look around, underneath these buttons here, in that wall, I spy a little metal grill poking through that carpet. Must be where they hide the microphone, I think. Ground floor. Still nothing. I think we can all agree I'm in too deep. There's no way of going backwards to reality from here, is there? There's only going forwards and making it worse with every step of the way. I'm trying to think what could possibly not be working now, and in my drunken, confused, dehydrated, jet-lagged, hungover state, I managed to find another potential explanation for what wasn't working. In my head, I thought, maybe it isn't recognising my English accent. You are about to hear a very bad American accent. I want to do this right. Sometimes I get it right, and especially for the DVD, I'm being filmed. Give me the pleasure of trying to get it right. If you get 2 seconds of silence, sometimes the American accent bubbles forward and it comes out right. So just give me 2 seconds of silence, if you could. Lobby. At which point, a hand pass through my frame of reference. It's at that moment there that I find myself staring at the pointy finger of the large man in the lift with me that I realise what a complete and utter tit I am making of myself. The voice attached to that hand says, "I'll do that." We start going down from the 15th floor to the ground floor. Every floor we go down, I'm consumed by a new shade of red as embarrassment takes me, plummeting. This is the worst moment. My stomach is turning over. I can't look that man in the eyes. He's trying to make polite conversation with me, but I can't deal with it because he's got the power over me. If I was in a lift by myself, if I'd done that by myself, I would have been dying to get out of that lift and go and share that story with my friends. It's the knowledge that he is dying to get out of that lift and go and share the story with his friends that makes that so horribly, gut-wrenchingly painful an experience. I could meet that man now and his stare could turn me to dust because I know he is the man who saw me be that idiot and he can turn me into that idiot again just with a look. We get to the ground floor, the door's open, he goes that way. I don't know where the fried food is. All I know is if he's going that way, I'm bloody going that way. I swear on my life this is true. I heard him. He'd got about 3 yards in that direction. He got on his walkie-talkie. He said, "Get me a price on voice-activated elevators." What do you mean they don't exist? They've got them in fucking England. It's a true story, I tell you. I can't drink like that anymore. Not now I'm 39. That's too much for me now. I'm not really cut out for the rock and roll lifestyle. It's not my default setting. I wanted to be a scientist when I was younger. That's what I wanted. That's why I went to study mathematics at Manchester, because I thought science was the route for me. That's why I was doing it. Some people don't get science. I think it's beautiful. Some people, they think it's boring. They think it's full of boffins who think they know it all. It's not like that at all. Scientists don't think they know it all. It's idiots who think they know it all, isn't it? Scientists are the people who think they don't know enough. That's why they're scientists, because they want to know more at every time. And every scientist, every modern scientist, all the greats, they're standing on the shoulders of giants. What happens is one scientist comes up with an idea and all the others go, "Bloody hell, that's brilliant, that. Hey, I wonder what would happen if." And that's where their idea comes from. That makes people go, "Hey, that's good. I wonder what would happen if." And that's where their idea comes from. And so on, you bounce them along. That's how it works. I'll give you an example. Scientists will tell you that the simple honeycomb structure is one of the strongest structures in all of nature. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I came up with my theory that the honey monster is one of the strongest monsters in all of nature. It's that simple. You take an idea, you bounce it along. It's as simple as that. It is a truly fascinating beast, the honey monster. The evolution of the honey monster is an amazing story. It really is. It's one of the reasons I've been struggling for years. I haven't toured for a long time because I was struggling with how to work out how to best convey to an audience the beauty of the evolution of the honey monster. It's not easy. Sometimes you think words aren't enough. There has to be another way. Is there another way? I was thinking, is there another way? And I realised there was another way. What you need, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, is a PowerPoint presentation. It's obvious when you think about it, isn't it? It's bloody obvious! Staring me in the face, there's an obvious way, isn't there? What you need is a PowerPoint presentation on the evolution of the honey monster. That's how you do it. It's obvious, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Now, I know what you're thinking. Your first thought there is what came before the honey monster. That's simple. Sugar Puffs. Now... Your next question becomes, what came before Sugar Puffs? I can help you out there, ladies and gentlemen, with the help of a timeline, OK? There's our timeline. I can tell you, in the 1930s, there was a cereal called puffed wheat. Puffed wheat was essentially your Sugar Puffs without the sugar or the honey. It was literally some wheat that had been puffed. It was, ladies and gentlemen, an austere cereal for austere times between the wars. Now, I know what you're thinking. It is worth pointing out that at that moment in time there, they wouldn't have called that between the wars. Obvious reasons when you think about it. That would have just been an austere time after the war, wouldn't it? That's what that would have been. Although it's also worth pointing out that at that moment in time there, they wouldn't have called that World War I. Very similar reasons, really. Obviously, at that moment in time, that would have just been called the Great War or the World War, wouldn't it? Obviously, you don't add the numbers until later on. It's the same with Jaws, Police Academy, that kind of thing. You know how it works. The fact remains, however, that it was an austere time and it was between the wars. Now, what happened next? Well, let's move the timeline on a little bit with a... there we go. Now, what happened next, ladies and gentlemen? You'll know, I imagine, that during World War II, there was rationing. Lots of things were rationed. Not everything, but lots of things were. And they started at different times. Sugar rationing started in 1940. That's when sugar rationing began. Now, youngsters who don't know very much about the war, they often imagine that it looked like that. They think rationing must have ended when the war ended. Why would you continue to ration things now that the war is over, they think? I'll tell you why. Because the world's infrastructure has been damaged. So you have to keep the rationing going until you can repair the world. No, it went on for a lot longer than you think. 1953 is when sugar rationing finally came to a close. In 1954, not even a full year since the end of sugar rationing, in 1954, that is when they introduced sugar puffs to the world. Now, the name sugar puffs makes sense, doesn't it? I don't think in today's climate you would call them sugar puffs, would you? Sugar isn't a good thing. Sugar is something we think our children have got too much of. In today's climate, you'd probably call them honey wheat puffs, wouldn't you? But they called them sugar puffs, and it made sense at the time. In 1954, imagine launching a cereal today and calling it sugar puffs. You wouldn't do it, would you? For a start, the makers of sugar puffs would sue your ass off. I promise you that. They would. It wouldn't happen. But you wouldn't do it, would you? Sugar puffs, they're bad words in today's world, but they were good words in 1954. In 1954, when you've been denying children sugar for 13 or 14 bloody years. In 1954, you wanted to get little Johnny, stand him in the street, pull his head back and pour sugar down his throat, and the hope that Mrs. Jones from number 32 was watching. That was a different time. Sugar was a luxury, so when they came to choose which ingredient to name it after, the honey, the wheat or the sugar, they chose the sugar, and sugar puffs were born. Now, at least, I'll give them this, they had the good grace to name their foodstuff after one of its ingredients, didn't they? Not everyone has the good grace to do that. I'm thinking here, of course, of brown sauce. What the hell is going on there? Why would you name a foodstuff after its unappealing colour instead of the things it tastes of because it's made of them? That's what I'd like to know. Well, let's examine. I'll give you the reasons. Let's have a look, ladies and gentlemen, at a brown sauce. That is HB sauce, which I believe is the original. Yeah, I'm absolutely right. It is indeed the original. Let's have a look at its ingredients, ladies and gentlemen. The ingredients are tomatoes. Well, you couldn't call it tomato sauce, could you? That name's already been taken, hasn't it? Anyone? Anyone? Tomato sauce, exactly, yeah. Absolutely, can't do that. Malt vinegar. You can't call it malt vinegar sauce, can you? Malt vinegar is a liquid that tastes very much of malt vinegar, isn't it? It is essentially a malt vinegar sauce. No one's ever going to say you want malt vinegar sauce and malt vinegar on your chips, are they? That would make no sense at all. Glucose fructose syrup. Sauce. That's a sugary, syrupy confection. Even though sugar was once a luxury, it's never been something you wanted to put on your chips, so that wouldn't have made sense. Molasses. That's another sugary concoction, but you can't call it that for another reason. Apparently, 27% of the population of this country think that that is seafood. That doesn't work either. Spirit vinegar, I think we've covered the vinegar argument. Sugar, I think we've covered the sugar argument. Dates. Dates. That is the first ingredient that you could conceivably name your sauce after. It's a fruit, it's good for you, it does taste a little bit datey, it would work. But let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Date sauce sounds a bit pervy. Excuse me, darling, you've got a bit of date sauce on your chin. You said, no, exactly. Your reaction tells the story. You can't do that, can you? Obviously. Although, for some reason, there is one out there called daddy's sauce. Don't blame me. I'm not making these rules, I'm just telling you how it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's not my fault, I'm just saying that's how it is. Meanwhile, back at the original, you know, don't you, as you go through the ingredients, down the list, they get smaller and smaller. I think it's safe to say that below dates, you couldn't really name it after any of the ingredients. There must be a tiny percentage of the whole, I'm guessing there, but that must be the case. You can see why it didn't work, but I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what's happening back at the timeline? Well, let's have a look at that later. Now they've introduced sugar puffs to the world, they've opened the bloody floodgates, haven't they? The world has changed. Cereals used to be cereal crops that you milled, put them into a bowl and ate them with milk. Now they've added sugar, they're adding anything they bloody want. Flavourings and colourings and all sorts of... In the 60s, Cocoa Pops, chocolate for breakfast, for children. What the hell are they doing? You wonder why we've got knife crime today, ladies and gentlemen. That's the fucking reason right there. Fucking chocolate for children for breakfast. If you're not French, you can't fucking hack it. We all know that. What are they doing? Chocolate for children for breakfast? The world's gone mad. Oh, now, by the 70s, put yourself in the 70s, imagine that you are a young parent in the 1970s. Maybe you're starting your family. That puts you maybe in your early 20s in the 1970s. You would therefore be the first generation of parents with no hardwired memory of sugar rationing. The first generation of parents since the war to not remember when sugar was scarce, when sugar was a luxury. Now we're in the 70s. Kids are wearing jeans, they're swearing, they want a skateboard, they've seen American telly. The whole world's going to hell in a handcart because they've got sugar in the system. That's what the world is telling you, Mum and Dad. You've got too much sugar in their system, the kids are running wild. You don't remember sugar as a luxury. It's the 1970s. Sugar is the enemy. You can't have that. You want people to look at the words sugar puffs and not think of sugar. You can't change the name of a leading brand. You've got to do something else. What you've got to do is change people's perception. You want people to see the words sugar puffs and not think of sugar. You want people to see the words sugar puffs and think of honey. They did it in 1976 when they introduced the honey monster to the world. And that there is the evolution of the honey monster. I thank you. It is as simple as that. That is where he came from. Now, it's only through studying the marketing of cereals for this show that I started thinking about an age-old conundrum that has puzzled me all my life. I was thinking about Cocoa Pops in particular. Their slogan, I'd rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops. I don't know when that slogan was born. I don't know how long it's been on this earth. I do know that I've been on this earth for 39 years and I can't remember a time when I didn't know those words. I feel like they followed me from my birth and they will follow me to my grave. And they've always, like an itch I couldn't scratch, they've always annoyed me. I didn't know how. It's like a crossword clue that you just can't get. I just knew there was something wrong with it. And then when I started studying it for this show, I worked it out. What it is, it's the word rather. The word rather implies that something else is under consideration. The word rather suggests that you would rather have them do something else. It would make sense if the advert was a picture of an old man eating a bowl of muesli. Then we'd all be thinking, yes, so would I rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops, absolutely. But it's not, is it? The advert is normally, typically, two young boys with a bowl of Cocoa Pops each going, oh, I love Cocoa Pops. Do you love Cocoa Pops? Yes, I do. Why do you love it so much? Because it's so chocolatey. What about you? Turns to milk brand. Isn't that the same reason? It doesn't really matter, does it? Chocolatey turns to milk brand. Oh, it's a Cocoa Pops. We love them. They're favourite. My favourite, your favourite. Yeah, they're everyone's favourite. They're brilliant, aren't they? Yeah, but I'll tell you what? I'd rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops. You can't rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops than a bowl of Cocoa Pops. That's a ridiculous thing to say. And now that I've worked it out, I've scratched that itch. It's fine now. It doesn't annoy me when it comes on telly anymore. Now, when that comes on TV, I just feel ever so faintly superior. It's quite nice in its way, it really is. But something else always moves into the annoyance locker in your head. You move one thing out and something else will replace it. And for me, last year, just as I solved this advertising riddle, a new advertising riddle sprung up on the scene. It was an advertising campaign for Aviva, who had changed their name from Norwich Union. And to do that, at great expense, they hired the services of several celebrities who have changed their names. The celebrities were Bruce Willis, Ringo Starr, Dame Edna Everage, Elle Macpherson and Alice Cooper. Is it only me who thinks for a start you can't do that? One of those is fictional, for crying out loud. But all of these people have indeed changed their name at some point, and they are now in this advertising campaign saying, oh, changing your name is brilliant. If I was Norwich Union, I'd have changed my name to Aviva as well. That's effectively what they're saying. I'd like to draw your attention in particular to the contribution of Mr. Ringo Starr. Now, the lawyers won't let me play you the advert, so I'm going to have to recreate it using sophisticated animation and a highly paid voiceover artiste. I'll describe it to begin with. It starts with what appears to be newsreel footage of the Beatles in their heyday. They're being rushed out of a building while thousands of teenage girls are screaming. It's Beatlemania in full flow. They're rushed into the back of a car. We cut to the inside of the car. It's still black and white footage, but it's modern-day Ringo sitting in the back of that car. And Ringo looks through the windows at the screaming girls from the 60s. And he looks straight down the lens and he says to you, would any of this have happened to me if I'd have still been Richard Starkey? Yes! You were the drummer in the Beatles! Of course it would have happened to you! None of that happened to you because you changed your fucking name, did it? When he says, would any of this have happened to me if I'd still been... What does he mean by this? Presumably he means his fame, his success, his riches, his adulation. In which case, all of that happened to him because he was holding 2 sticks behind 3 very gifted musicians. In the history of the world, nobody has ever had a conversation that went, why do you love the Beatles so much? Because the drummer changed his name to sound like a children's entertainer. Granted, he might have got the Thomas the Tank Engine gig because of it, but nothing else happened to him because he changed his name to Ringo. For fuck's sake! He could have been called Twatty McTwatpants and that would have happened to him because he was drumming for the fucking Beatles. Everything he has in this world is less than 1/4 of what the world bestowed upon the Beatles. He is trying to take the credit for the abilities of 2 of the most gifted, charismatic songwriters the world has ever seen and say it was his name that gave them their riches. He is trying to take the credit for Paul McCartney and John fucking Lennon. And the reason they were so successful is they had a drummer who changed his name to Ringo. For fuck's sake! And then he's in another advert in the same campaign. And this time, it's just a modern-day Ringo. And he's arriving in an airport. And there's a man, a chauffeur there to collect him, holding a name card as chauffeurs do at airports. And on that name card, it says Ringo. And this time, Ringo says, don't call me by my stage name. What? Everything I have in the world, I have because I chose a stage name. Please don't use it. All right, we won't. Just as soon as you give every fucking penny back. Those 2 sentences should be having a fucking fight. Not appearing in the same advertising campaign, advertising the virtues of changing your name. My telly is lucky it fucking survived this. Except it's not, because having survived that, he then had to go through the indignity of showing me Alice Cooper's contribution to this advertising campaign. In Alice Cooper's contribution, you see him in his 70s heyday, a snake around his neck at a microphone singing. Then you see him in the day, now, at a microphone with a snake around his neck. Now, it's going to be a bit tricky. You know that my American accent isn't up to much. But he says, lobby? He doesn't, no. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. What he says is, who ever heard of a glam rock star called Vincent Furnier? Yeah, who indeed? Let's examine that sentence forensically one more time. Let me give you a little history lesson, ladies and gentlemen. Once upon a time, many moons ago, in America, a young couple met and fell in love. They got married, they had sex one night, as married couples are wont to do. They had a little baby as a result. That little baby was a boy. They named him Vincent. Their surname was Furnier. Little Vincent Furnier went to school. At school, he developed a gift and a flair for music and a passion for music. He leaves school, he joins a band. The band, for reasons I know not, take as their name the words Alice Cooper. They achieve a modicum of success, nothing special, just a little bit, and then they split up, as most bands do. But the lead singer, a man called Vincent Furnier, wants more of what he's tasted. He's tasted success. He wants more of that. And so to capitalise on the small amount of success that band has had, he takes as his own stage name the name of his former band, and he becomes Alice Cooper. That is the reason his face has touched your eyes. That is the reason his music has touched your ears. That is the reason his existence has touched your consciousness. Now, let's imagine that none of that had happened. Let's go back in time to an alternative universe where none of that has happened, where that young couple in America have never even so not just met, let alone fallen in love and got married and had sex and had a baby. In that world, there is no such creature as Vincent Furnier. No one has ever been given that name. No one has ever had that DNA. He does not exist. He cannot grow up. He cannot change his name to Alice Cooper. You've never heard of either of them. And in that alternative universe, I'm writing a novel. And my novel is about a glam rock star. And I say, I'm really happy with the way it's going. It's a good book, I think, but I'm struggling with one thing. I don't know what to call the central character. Help me out, Bloomsbury. Do you think I should call him Vincent Furnier? I think there's 500 people in a room thinking, hell yes. Good name for a rock star, that, glam rock. After I can see him, he drives a Ford Thunderbird. He's quite chatty with the ladies, isn't he, Vince Furnier? I can see that, yeah. In fact, I'd call the band Vincent Furnier and the Thunderbirds. I've got a ring to it. I like the way you're thinking. Now, should I call him Alice Cooper? No. That's a dinner lady from Wolverhampton. What the hell? That is clearly a better name for a glam rock star than the name he fucking chose. This stuff stuff genuinely winds me the shit up. At one point, I was going to do a whole show just on the subject of advertising. I'm not kidding you when I say my doctor advised me against it. When I was going to do that, I thought one subject I can't leave would... this is the most, pernicious, subversive, dangerous form of advertising. I thought subliminal advertising, that needs a bit of a kicking. I thought, I'll do something about that. And I thought about it for a while, and I thought, actually, what hasn't been said about subliminal advertising? You know what I mean? Is there anything new you can really bring to the table? In my head, I think you'd have to go for a low note to get a proper laugh out of it, to be honest with you. I'd rather stay classy, avoid that, play the classy card and rise above the crowd. So I'm not going to talk about subliminal advertising in anything that I do, ladies and gentlemen. But I am going to give you this little promise, and this is a genuine, solemn promise from me, ladies and gentlemen, a hand on my heart. In any work of mine, any ticket you ever buy for a show of mine, any book of mine or DVD of mine that you buy, there will never be any subliminal advertising. And that is a solemn promise, and I mean that. And I'm actually prepared to put that to the test right away, ladies and gentlemen. I'm always trying to explore new avenues as a writer and as a performer, and I'm working on my first play right now, and it might be a bit unprofessional when we're filming and stuff, but I'd love to just try out a little, not the whole thing, just a little bit of my play. I'd like to hear the words proper in a nice big theatre on a nice night like you, a nice crowd like you. The only thing with this, I'm going to try out a little bit of this play, is I'm not the only person in the play. I do need to do some casting here. But don't worry, you don't need to read anything. I'm going to be reading from a script. You don't need to be an actor. You don't need to learn anything like that. What I'm going to do is a bit of random casting then. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this ball into the audience at random. Wherever it lands, be honest, hold on to it. I promise you, you won't be invited on stage, or you will stay safe in your seat. No harm will come to you. It will be absolutely lovely. But be honest, and don't sort of try not to catch it or throw it away or anything like that. If anyone does that, everyone else just grass them up. It's just quicker, that. It's going to go over my shoulder, so I don't know where it's going. It's a genuine random thing. Here we go, on the count of three. Incidentally, I believe this is how John Terry selects his latest lovers. Here we go, on the count of three, ladies and gentlemen, here we go, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, well held, young lady, well held. Well held, you. Well done. And, what's your name, madam? Kate, very nice to meet you, Kate. You please hold on to the ball, Kate. It's very important that you do. I want to know who you are, because the important thing, Kate, is that you don't have any lines in the play. OK, so hold on to the ball so we know who hasn't got any lines. Everyone else, however, you have got lines in the play, OK? It's just Kate who's off duty. I'm in it, you're in it, but Kate isn't. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but I've got a good system. You have all got the same lines. So to help you out, instead of giving you scripts, I'll just put them on the screen for you instead. OK, what it does, when you've got dialogue, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put it up there, nice big white writing up there saying dialogue. You'd read what it did say. But to help you out, so you really know it's your turn, I'll put a blue speech bubble up there as well, OK? Now, it sounds complicated, this. You haven't just got dialogue, you've also got actions, OK? Now, it'll be complicated, wouldn't it? Even without the blue speech bubble, I think some of you would be so fixated on the words, you'd start to read them instead of do them. So to help you out, I won't put them in the same font. I'll put them in a lowercase font like so, and I'll put them in a nice pinky purple colour like that also, so you can't get confused. You know the difference between the two. Simple as that. Let's just test this out, OK? Not you, Kate, everyone else. Let's just test that out, OK? Whatever you're scared of, it's already happened, sir. That's what your fear is telling us. Hold his fucking hand. It's always groups of heterosexual men who do it Auld Lang Syne style. As if that is somehow inherently less intimate. Oh, well done, it works, absolutely. Well done indeed, everyone. Well done, yeah. You deserve that, then. I mean, you really do. I'll be honest with you, I knew it would work because I use that system in Hollyoaks. Now, the play, ladies and gentlemen, is set in the future. It is set in a dystopian future where some cataclysmic event has hit the Earth, we know not what. But civilization as we know it today has been brought to an end. However, we are a bunch of survivors. We have crawled through the rubble, and we have found each other, and we formed a tribe. And we are trying our hardest as best we can from the shards of our memories and from the fragments of the previous civilization we find around our feet in the ruins. We are trying our hardest to rebuild a modern civilization. OK, now, because one person has different lines to the others, it makes sense that I play that role. So I will be playing the king of the tribe, and you will be playing the tribe, apart from you, Kate. OK, in my play, which is called The Good People of Bloomsbericus, a play by Dave Gorman, in which there will be no subliminal advertising of any kind. Here we go. People of Bloomsbericus, I do not seek to cause you vexation, and I will not levy taxes on your work. But I do ask that you be loyal, that we stand together as one. Do I have that loyalty?
Yes! We are loyal.
Then please, raise your right hands and take the Bloomsberican oath.
We, the people of Bloomsbericus, do solemnly swear to do as our leader bids us. We will fight for Bloomsbericus because we are proud Bloomsbericans.
People of Bloomsbericus, our way of life is under threat. The rituals that we hold dear are in danger. Someone, an outsider, has stolen the tiny sacred football of fate.
Not the tiny sacred football of fate.
Yes! The tiny sacred football of fate. We must find the thief. Justice must be done. If anyone knows who has the tiny sacred football of fate, please let it be known. People of Bloomsbericus, you know what must be done. Kill the infidel! Okay, please stop. What the hell has happened to you? Have you got no moral compass of your own? What kind of animals are you? You think you were in Reading or something? What is going through your minds? I'm so sorry, Kate. It's not meant to go like that. They're meant to see the error of their own ways and realise they're autonomous beings. But no, are you that easily raised to violence? What on earth is that about? I can't believe you people. God, it's not as if you weren't warned, is it? For crying, you were warned, weren't you? How short are your bloody memories? Don't you remember it? Don't you remember this, for crying out loud?
Tonight, I'm going to turn the good people of the Bloomsbury Theatre into a gang of bloodthirsty killers.
Weren't you, for crying out loud? What is wrong with you people? Luckily for you, Kate, luckily for you, I was thinking about you because I also said this.
But don't worry, I will stop them before they take a life.
Yeah, lucky someone was there. I said something else after that, didn't I? What did I say after that?
And when that's over, I'll say thanks a lot, good night, and I'll leave.
Thanks a lot. Good night. Cheers. Kate, give her a round of applause. Go on, Kate, give me the ball. Come on, Kate, come on, you can do it. Teamwork. Teamwork. Round of applause for her for being a decent sport. It was a good job. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Before you go, there's a couple of things I do need to say to you, and one is sort of a confession. We very nearly had to actually leave the PowerPoint out of the show tonight and just pretend it was never meant to be there. We were having real problems setting it up. I think it's to do with the cameras, or I don't know what it was, but it was not working. If anyone knows how these things work, and you can help me out, it's really... I should take that. That looks rude now, doesn't it? If anyone can explain to me why... Seriously, why would this happen? I've looked as closely as I can and I just can't. So if anyone knows what the hell's going on there, do hang around and have a chat at the end. It'll be greatly appreciated. I know you're going to think I say this every night, and I'll prove to you that I don't. I'm genuinely really chuffed that you lot were here for this one, because I think you have been one of the smartest audiences that I had on the whole tour. Okay, you think I say that every night or whatever. I'll prove that I didn't. When you write a show like this, every little joke is like one of your little babies, and you love them, and then you do it a bit, and some of them work better than others, and you have to cut some out, and you have to improve them, and it's just your job to do it, be professional and kill the weak babies. But... But sometimes there's like one joke that you just love, and I couldn't kill it, and I loved it. And no audience, or hardly any audiences, ever really connected with it. And then you lot tonight, like, really clicked with it. So I'll keep it for the future now, if you've given me some confidence in that. So it was when I called the place in the play Bloomsbericus. That, normally, nothing. Nothing normally, out of the park tonight. So thank you for that, I really do appreciate it. I'll leave you, ladies and gentlemen, with a bit of advice and another couple of things to say. My piece of advice, this is for everyone who is in a relationship and who would like to gain the upper hand in that relationship, which is basically everyone who's in a relationship. What you do, ladies and gentlemen, is you wait until breakfast time with your loved one. I'm imagining that you live together. You're both doing different parts of the breakfast routine. Maybe you're making a pot of coffee, something casual like that. Very, very casually, not making a big song and dance about it. You just turn from whatever you're doing to your loved one and say, oh, by the way, did you know you talk in your sleep? You've already gained a tiny edge. There isn't a living soul on this planet who can hear that sentence in their mother tongue from the person they love and not have a little flutter of panic about what it is they might have said. They will consider not asking because they're frightened, but the temptation will overcome them, and within 20 seconds, your loved one will say to you, really? What did I say? At which point, you deliver the killer blow. Oh, nothing. Some of it's a bit embarrassing, some of it's a bit racist. You cannot lose at that point, Naomi. You are in control of that relationship. That is a done deal. That's a promise from me to you, I promise you. And if you're not laughing at that, it is because you or your partner are casually racist. Fact. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, and I do thank you for coming, I'll leave you with this. If this show has a message, and I appreciate it's difficult to discern. It would be as follows. Whoever you are, then, but I believe this is true for you, young or old, male or female, rich or poor, black or white, whatever circumstances you were born to in this world, whatever you've tossed aside along the way or acquired along your journey, this is true for all of you. If you're ever doing a poo, and not just any old poo, I mean a special kind of poo, the kind of poo that leaves your body with sufficient velocity, with thrust, with heft, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, on the right trajectory. So that, having left your body, it then does that most wondrous thing of travelling all the way around the U-bend in one fell swoop. So that you, sitting on the toilet, I'm 39. Sitting on the toilet, knowing full well that you have just done what was clearly quite a substantial poo. And yet, when you look down between your two thighs that are young or old, rich or poor, black or white, male or female, between those two thighs, knowing full well you did a substantial poo, you look down and you espy a completely empty toilet bowl. It doesn't matter who you are, then, when that happens to you, and if it hasn't yet, it will. You live the rest of your life safely, happily, certain in the knowledge that there will always be a small part of you that still believes in magic. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for coming. Cheers. Good night.